the Old Testament was excruciatingly detailed after the creation of the earth. So God, knowing that that's one of our biggest questions that humanity would face, sped through that in like one chapter and then told us all about the tabernacle and how he made doorways and how he made like the Ark of the Covenant. It just doesn't make any sense. Hello, everybody. This is your host, Dread Pirate. Emo Maki. And today, we're going to be talking about something that I wasn't exactly planning on talking about, but I feel like I want to do it tonight, and it's on my mind. I'm not tired anyway, so let's do it. To believe or not to believe? That is the question. What does Dread Pirate Maki believe? And can he define it? I think he can. What I believe starts, it's a very complex topic, which is why I don't bring it up too much. But what I believe, and what I relate to a lot with Rhett and Link's spiritual deconstruction, specifically Rhett, because we have a similar, thought process. We think the same. Starts with very, very conservative Christianity. Think like the women had to wear head coverings and the denim skirts, and everybody was homeschooled, and you had homeopathic remedies, and we had water filters because there was fluoride in the water, and we weren't allowed to watch like Spider-Man, barely allowed to watch Magic School Bus because it had magic in it. Weirdly, Lord of the Rings and Chronicles of Narnia was fine, but Harry Potter was like top of the list, no go. So that's the history that I come from. So my original beliefs started very basic, what basic Bible beliefs, being taught Bible stories as full truth. I know some people think they are allegories. I think that either they are untrue or they are true. I don't think there's an allegory option for especially the Old Testament stories, but that's kind of getting ahead of myself. I'll do that a couple times this video. The thing that got me started thinking about all this too is I've been seeing a lot of 10-year reunions from Word of Life, the Bible school I went to. I currently live in the Bible Belt in Virginia, so I have a lot of people coming in, just random customers and stuff like, so are you a man of the Lord? And then I have to either lie or say, well, I don't really know. I don't have a simple way to explain it. They're like, well, what's hard about it? Like that sort of, but I'm their sales rep. It's very awkward. So that's what got me thinking about this, is all the look backs and the thought that, yeah, that was apparently 10 years ago. I've missed a couple of years. What I want to share, I guess, isn't really as important to change anybody else's mind, but I have posted a lot of very probably confusing things on Facebook at one point or another. Just different opinions on things that have happened in my life or people around me, and not just opinions on it, but whether or not I am okay with it, because I've felt the need to distance myself from certain things or to align myself with certain things, and we may get into that, but this is more start to finish what I believe to be true, if I can quantify it and define it. And I will do my best, and some of it may be ridiculous in the way that I explain it, but I will try my best to make it make sense. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth was formless and void, and the Spirit of the Lord hovered over I thought I knew this. Over the face of the deep. And the Lord said, let there be light, and there was light. And there was morning, and there was evening, the first day. And God said, let there be a great expanse between I don't remember anymore. Let's see how far I could go. This is one of the bigger talking points that I like to bring up with people, because it's not necessarily super controversial, because it's, if we're talking about the Old Testament as a fully true, fully, not necessarily even false, but fully comprehensive history of the world, if we're taking it as a full comprehensive history of the world, then you really have to align yourself with an age of the earth of between 6 and 9,000 years, because of genealogies that have been traced back from Jesus to Adam to show the lineage of the Son of Man, as he's called. The second Adam, as some people say as well, because the first Adam gave in and ate the fruit and disobeyed God, causing us to fall into sin. The second Adam came back and did exactly the opposite. He's the yin to the yang sort of idea. So 6 to 9,000 years is a long time. And I believe it's long enough to get, I mean, it's definitely long enough to get from, Stone Age or Bronze Age or whatever you want to call it to modern day, because we have even less time from Egypt until now. And the Egyptians were brilliant, but they were using stone for almost everything, and we now have cars. So the time isn't necessarily something that I'm concerned with. I may have to turn that TV off if it keeps focusing over there. I don't know why it's not focusing on me. It should be. You all should be. But aside from the time limit thing, this is my first qualm with the Old Testament and Genesis specifically. God being all-knowing is not something I want to discuss right now exactly. I will get into that, but it's going to be kind of the cop-out excuse for a lot of things. God being all-knowing could have prevented everything, literally everything we know. And I realize that forced love is not love. So therefore, God could not create robots to love him, because that doesn't make sense. People want to love him. He wants people to love him and worship him out of free will. That I have no problem with, and it makes sense. My continued problem with that, which ties back into Genesis, is that God in his all-knowing power knew that if we're going with Bible references, Satan would try to deceive us. He would create 100,000 different religions, as churches teach. That's the reason that they all exist, is because it's just like it's that episode from The Office when Michael Scott told everybody about Stanley's affair, so he started pumping out a whole bunch of other lies about people to cover it up. That sort of idea, where Satan doesn't want us to know the truth, so he pumped out a bunch of 100,000 different religions over the course of 9,000 years, and that's why we're so confused today. Even though we have the Bible, that doesn't make sense. But anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself again. The reason I have an issue with that, like I said, isn't that God didn't want to create people who would follow him by force, essentially, which is fair. My issue is that he didn't leave a clear enough, the way that he created the Bible is sus to me. It's like the way we see it now, as you go and you sit in the church and you hear this is God's word and it's been verified over hundreds of years and there's no real reason to doubt it, because why would you? But when you really go back and look at how the Bible was compiled, the books that they chose to throw away, the leadership at the time who decided that that was the Bible. Yeah, there we go. Let's try that. Cool, we get color processing too. Nice. My issue is that God left it up to people to interpret the Bible and to compile it. Yeah, assuming, again, I'm not talking to a Christian audience here, so assuming that the entire Bible is true and every word is true. When Luke, the doctor at the time in Rome, did his research and he asked eyewitnesses of Lazarus rising and the feeding of the 5,000, stuff like that, to verify what they saw and compile that into the book of Luke, which is how we know, that's essentially what he did. It's been too long, I don't remember all the details beyond that, but If we're going to assume that that's true, then we also have to assume that the only interaction God wanted to have physically with us is that 33 years that he was here on earth. And he thinks that 33 years on earth is plenty to get us through, the next 2,500 years with zero contact from zero real tangible contact from God. Now you can debate and say, well, the Holy Spirit, but that's not what I'm talking about here. I'm talking about like Jesus came to earth. He was physical in the flesh. He would touch people and they would come back to life. He turned the water into wine. He took 2 bread and 3 loaves, or whatever. I forget the numbers. And he fed 5,000 people with it. But he did actual tangible things you could see and watch and touch and believe. But some people didn't. So that brings me that leads me to 2 questions, and it brings me back to Genesis. I promise there's a point to this. If some people don't believe when they watched it, that leads me to believe 2 things. Either A, they are very, very dumb. I guess 3 things. They don't want to believe, or those kinds of miracles were common enough that Jesus doing them wasn't impressive. Because if you notice that the Pharisees, when they were going to go stone Jesus, when they were going to arrest him, stuff like that, they didn't arrest him on the grounds of you practicing witchcraft. And we all know how much they loved to burn witches back then. So they didn't arrest him on grounds of witchcraft, on sorcery. They didn't accuse him of any sort of black magic or anything like that, even though apparently he brought people back from the dead. He multiplied food. He did all this. He did all kinds of crazy stuff. He spoke to Satan. He called himself God. But it was that he called himself God. That's what got him arrested. Because calling yourself God is against the Old Testament. That's what got him arrested and killed, inevitably. Or it's what they used to get him arrested anyway. I mean, that's actually not what I'm here to debate, whether or not that was an actual accusation or not. But that's neither here nor there. How that ties back to Genesis is that God knew, one way or the other, that people like me, who grew up in this, we're talking about 2,500 years since Jesus was here. 6,000 years minimum since Moses. That's a long time. That's a very long time. And you think one book, multiple parchments, but one book is going to survive that long without error? And I know there are arguments for this, but just hear me out. Without error, without tampering, without some sort of political power infiltrating it and adding its own agenda. God knew that there would be people like that, and that would happen because people are fallen. To be able to trust a perfect God, I need a perfect resemblance. I can't take a man-made book, which it is man-made. I'll get to that in a second. I can't take a man-made book and trust that with my eternal soul. I can't in good conscience do that. And that's essentially what brings me to, I guess, I don't believe anymore. And that's, again, I don't tell people that. I don't consider myself not a Christian. I don't consider myself an atheist, nothing like that. I just don't have anything better. I think the Bible has truth to it. I think that things like Judaism, the Jews, constantly being not picked on, but the fact that they still exist. Like, do Midianites still exist? Do the worshippers of Baal still exist? No. But Jews do, thousands of years later. You know, the only dead language that was revived and started being spoken again as a common tongue and now exists in hundreds of thousands of people as a common tongue? Hebrew. That happened. And it's the only language that it's ever happened with. So I think there are too many anomalies. The Bible itself is a giant hyperlinked book. Every single verse refers to another verse. So every part, that's why it feels alive. So whether or not you agree that it's the Holy Spirit illuminating it for you, that I'm going to set aside. But even if that's not the case, every single book, every single verse refers to another verse. So therefore you can crisscross it and you can reference into infinity, and you're always going to be finding another reference for it. It's even if you don't believe the Bible, it's incredible. It's like a feat of literacy that we've still not seen copied, much less written by like 4,000 people or whatever. So on those grounds, I also think that there has to be legitimacy to the Bible. I just don't know what it is, because the people that decided what the Bible is and what books it is made up of were like mid-century, is that the right term? Like dark age century, medieval Catholic leaders, essentially politicians at the time, because the church controlled everything. If you're going to take that into an example today, would you, like, say, for example, I don't know, Trump, for example, just because I can't think of a less popular person. Trump reveals that he has communication from God, that he has watched, that he has been visited by an angel in a dream, and he has himself witnessed Moses and Elijah on Mount Rushmore. And this is going to be the third age, it's going to be the New World Order. And the third part of the Bible, the Third Testament, is going to be written. And we have the first couple books of this continuous, ongoing project of God's. And it was approved by the Oval Office as part of the Bible. Did you believe it? No. Well, some people would believe it, yes, unfortunately. But definitely not, because who trusts the government? And who trusts the government telling them that God told them to do something, so we listen to them? That's clearly just manipulation. That's what this was back in the day. There are sources that prove biblical accounts, that prove Jesus was a real person, that he lived and that he was crucified. But the rest of it is still hearsay. Because how are you going to prove that Lazarus came back to life? You just can't. So, is that a case of God wants us to be faithful? Or is that a case of the cardinals that chose these books specifically chose books that we could not verify because we needed to be told what was true? Now again, that's why I'm emo today. That's why I'm emo-walking today, because I'm nothing matters, man. Nothing matters, bro. The world's falling apart, man. Nothing matters, bro. I'm not saying that nothing matters and that nothing can be trusted, but at the same time, what else are you going to trust from the Middle Ages? I mean, I don't think there's an error in the Bible. I haven't seen any good evidence that it was tampered with or that things were added intentionally to deceive. So this is kind of a deep state idea, I guess, which makes it sound even more like a conspiracy. But I don't know. This is just me thinking out loud. So let me know what you think about this in the comments and how I'm wrong, because I'm sure I'm wrong. But I don't see any evidence of tampering. Like, they didn't change information in the Bible to imply a different result. Like, they didn't take "a man shall not lie with a man" and change it to, I don't know, like, they didn't change the meaning behind it, you know what I mean? They didn't, like, swap words around and stuff. So we have evidence of the Old Testament compiled, mostly. There are other books that were found in the Dead Sea Scrolls. The book of Ezekiel, book of Enoch, and a couple others were found alongside it. This is like the Bible, like the Dead Sea Scrolls that were found in the 40s in that cave near Qumran They found they found a copy of the Old Testament that was intact and set our oldest copy back by like 1,200 years. It was a huge find. But they also found other books with it, and they didn't say anything about that. They didn't try to be like, hey, maybe these are legitimate. Should we add these? Should we think about maybe adding like an apocrypha, like that sort of idea? That never, as far as I know, that never came up in the modern world. I'm sure there are people debating it, but like in the mainstream, that's never happened. So the fact that we are listening to a compiled list of manuscripts hundreds of years after they were written by a group of people that was essentially the government, and we know manipulated the people by only translating the Bible into Latin, so only the priests could read it, like stuff like that. These are the people we're trusting with eternal life talk, and I just can't get past that. And how that ties back to Genesis. This won't be super long. This is probably the first of a couple episodes I'll do. But how that ties back with Genesis is that God knew that Adam and Eve were going to fail. He knew that. Now that's not the bad part. That's not what I'm upset about. I'm upset about the part where God claims to love all people equally and more than we can ever imagine, but then also turns around and punishes to the harshest extent by throwing people who didn't believe in him, even though they've never seen him or have had evidence in 2,500 years, into a lake of fire to burn for eternity. That just seems incorrect. It doesn't sound like it's in God's character to me. Now, I know that there's going to be somebody out there saying, you don't know God's character, you don't even believe. Like, that's okay, but I grew up in this hardcore Christian culture in Northeast Ohio and Pennsylvania Dutch, like Mennonite Amish area. Like, I've been in this area until I moved away when I was like 24. So like 24 years of hardcore Bible knowledge. And if you notice, I didn't do any research before this video. It's literally 11:40 at night, and I was brushing my teeth, and I was like, you know what, I should make an episode. And I came out and sat down and did this. All the knowledge that I have right now is in my head from Word of Life and from Bible knowledge that I have learned through my life. So if that says anything, I do know what I'm talking about. It's just that if me and my finite mind and my human smooth brain can come up with things like, the world is really bad the way it is right now. It's not fair to people. You have to strive for labor every day. You have to, like, all this stuff of why we dislike the earth. Humans, or the saved people, are going to heaven, according to the doctrine. Unsaved people, why do they have to go negative? Like, that's the part I don't understand, is why, as a loving person, would you give the harshest punishment? And somehow churches turn it around like, oh, well, justice is loving. But, like, throughout the whole Bible, mercy is loving. Jesus literally taught that mercy is loving. The forgive us our debts story. The story about, the prodigal son. The marriage story, I think, was also mercy, if I remember correctly. I don't remember all the details off the top of my head. But mercy is like mercy, grace, like that's the whole point of the Bible. But then justice, suddenly, to take a left turn, is how God communicates his love for an unsaved person. So, at the very least, I don't understand why the world has to be destroyed and a new one made. And again, I can hear somebody saying, there's nothing for you to know. But I'm a questioning human being. And I was created that way, apparently. According to doctrine, I was created exactly the way I am for a reason. I was knit you together by mother's womb. That's where it starts to crumble for me. Is why would God purposefully create beings that he knew were going to question him, which is the only way to get true love that's not forced. and then not give them full answers for the questions he knew they would have, and then send them to hell for asking the questions instead of just believing. That's what doesn't make sense to me. So either hell's a bluff, Satan is actually playing a role. He's not actually what the Bible claims he is. He's just playing a role to see who's actually going to follow. Or God is hiding something. Those are the only solutions I can think of. Is that if God doesn't want to share it with intelligent beings that he created, he knew were going to ask questions that have life or death consequences for eternity, but doesn't want to answer them. That's super, super sus to me. The way godhood and powers and miracles are described in the Old Testament are not described like it's 1 out of a million. It's described as something, like the way it's talked about isn't like this is the only being in the universe that has this power. It's like they're discussing one of the Avengers. Go back to the Old Testament and read it in Genesis, Exodus. The way it's talked about, especially even in like Exodus, during the Exodus, are the 12 plagues. When Moses throws a staff on the ground and it turns into a snake, and then the charmers do it too. The wise men, the sorcerers, do the same thing. The official Word of Life explanation, I don't remember what class this was in, it was probably Genesis, was, well, at the time, you could entrance a snake, you could hypnotize a snake to stand stiff like a board, and then once you did the snap, or once you whatever, then they became a snake again, and everyone was shocked. Like, they have a way to explain around that, but there's literally no evidence that says that. The Bible is literal, right? We believe in a literal interpretation. So when it says the wise men did the same thing, they had sticks and they turned into snakes, it means they did the same thing. They tapped from the same power. So, as an example, the way God is discussed in the Old Testament is more of a higher plane of existence, a higher being, a being with higher power or technology. That's the ancient aliens guy. Which actually was why I find the ancient aliens thing so intriguing, because the way they talk about aliens is not like, oh, green-headed men coming down to like eat us. They talk about it like they're, first dimensional beings, plants, no soul. Second dimensional beings, animals. They have sentience, but no soul. But there's nothing else. It's just software and programming. Once they die, they die. They don't go anywhere. There's no dogs don't talk about like dog ghosts, you know what I mean? Stuff like that. Humans are third dimension. We are first dimensional, that we are made of cells. Second dimensional, and that we are sentient. Third dimensional, and that we have a soul that can cross over and understand more than just ourselves and witness fourth dimensional beings. And it continues on. That's the logical way I see it. It would also explain ghosts. It would also explain other paranormal activity. It's just an interesting thought. I'm just kind of brainstorming here. So, to show you what I'm thinking here, when I'm watching like Ancient Aliens, just because why not? Because it's fun. When they say extraterrestrial technology, or I think this could have been written by aliens, but they're not saying that it's like Kingdom of the Crystal Skull aliens. What they're saying is that there's a higher intelligence out there that is observing us and brought us knowledge early in our existence, known as Anunnaki, or in the Bible they're known as the Nephilim, the giants. Like, there's so many. Every culture has a story about it. Babylon, God specifically interacts with Nebuchadnezzar so much and treats him like an equal. It's the strangest relationship I've ever seen God have in the Bible, is Nebuchadnezzar, because he doesn't treat Nebuchadnezzar like, you need to bow down and worship me, although he does say that. He treats Nebuchadnezzar like he's toying with him. Like, he wants him to understand and have a deeper connection with God, but not in a way that he does with other people. It's very interesting. But Nebuchadnezzar, the one with the wings and the beard from like Iraq, that's where the Anunnaki came from. It's the same concept. It's the exact same story. Angels come down, something higher power comes down and has children with humans, and then they grow up into giants and like strong men. So the hypothesis that seems more realistic to me is that power obviously goes to everyone's head. We can all agree with that. God, when he says, I am God, what he means is, I want you to treat me like God because I have powers. I don't think he necessarily created every atom, every cell. Because if you really want to dig into it and get in the weeds, that would also explain Elijah's sightings, chariot of fire, Moses going up on Mount Sinai, and God appearing in much thunder, smoke, and fire. Sounds like a rocket ship to me. Like, again, this is all crazy conspiracy theory stuff, and I'm just halfway joking around and halfway like, well, I mean, it does not make sense. You know what I mean? The point is, not that I want aliens to be real, but that would be awesome, is that what seems to be the case, based on the angelic and God's interactions with people of the Old Testament, seems to be some sort of just advanced knowledge or technology that people didn't understand. Read the book of Enoch, read Daniel, read Ezekiel, the wheel within a wheel thing, like the hovering thing, like it so many more things make sense when you interpret it that way. Again, not that it doesn't make God less holy, it doesn't make it less true. It just means it's not like instead of making up religion words, we can explain it with modern technology, is more what I'm getting at. That's closer to what I think and what I believe. And how that ties in with Jesus' existence is Jesus is kind of an anomaly, actually. No matter where you are, no matter what religion, Jesus is an anomaly, because people say he's a prophet, but he did definitely more things than like Muhammad did or Buddha did, and different things. They're just not on the same plane. Now, if you take Jesus' existence and his visit to Earth as true, then you still actually have to justify the way the Bible ends is the Israelites being taken by Rome, I think. And it says like, and they just stayed there as slaves for XYZ years, and then it ends. Like, it's such a bad ending. Bad for them, I mean. The Catholic Bible has the Apocrypha, which follows the one family through those silent, dark years, and then Jesus comes. And Jesus is the first light and the first communication from God that they have had in 400 years. So not only was Jesus born on like, I think it's like 5 AD now or whatever, but 400 years before that is their last communication with God. So the difference between, but if you look very carefully, Jesus' teachings about like loving your neighbor, or being willing to eat with the tax collectors and the prostitutes, or Gentiles and Jews should eat together, like that sort of idea, is very different than how God of the Old Testament taught. He taught extermination of the enemy. The only acceptance is migration. So the only way you could be saved, which is not how they phrased it in the Old Testament, but for, lack of a better term, is to become a Jew culturally. Marry a Jew, become fully Jewish, start following every Jewish law. That's the only way that they could do it. Theologically, according to the Bible, that's how they could do it. So just the variances, the differences between Jesus and God's way of teaching, the just suspicious way that, like, for another example, the Old Testament is known as boring, expository, excruciatingly detailed, and makes no sense. Like, measure this doorway by this many cubits and put blood on the door, like that sort of thing, because they're like building the tabernacle. The Old Testament was excruciatingly detailed after the creation of the earth. So God, knowing that that's one of our biggest questions that humanity would face, sped through that in like one chapter and then told us all about the tabernacle and how he made doorways and how he made like the Ark of the Covenant. It just doesn't make any sense. Like, as it is, part of the human condition is wondering your purpose, and the creation of the world is like half the answer. But God specifically hid that from us, and it's just it just doesn't make sense to me that the most important one of the most important things in the Bible is like 12 verses long. So those differences, the fact that you can literally read the Bible and change every word angel to alien and just go full ancient aliens, and it still makes perfect sense. It doesn't change the meaning at all. Like Moses went up onto Mount Sinai to meet the extraterrestrial that brought knowledge. Mary Magdalene went to Jesus' tomb, and there was an alien hovering over it and said, "Do not fear." Angel and alien literally have the same definition. An otherworldly, powerful, extra Earth being from another dimension coming to communicate with us on a different plane of existence. It's exactly the same thing. So anyway, all that to say, that's not what I believe, but the fact that you can read through the whole Bible and it still makes sense, like that seems a little weird to me. It seems like there must be something there. So many of like the God interactions, like I was saying in the Old Testament, can be explained as a UFO incident, and it still makes perfect sense. First off, thank you for listening this far. And second of all, in conclusion, I don't not believe in God, but I think that there's either things that are being hidden from us, whether that's God hiding it or the Catholic Church hid it in medieval times. I don't know. But it just seems like there are pieces missing, and would make much more sense in today's world versus like medieval world. But I just think there are pieces missing, and I don't know how to reconcile that at this point. So let me know what you think. I'll do a couple more of these episodes as well. Leave me a comment telling me how I'm wrong, because I'm sure I am. If I contradict myself, just let me know. Sub if you don't mind. That helps me out. I'll talk to you guys later.